That's
Good thing which one Georgia, so we can assume we all.
That's all yours.
Orissa called. She wanted me to just to provide some context because I mean this seems I like it when she gives her presentation is very special, but it was something that was going on all over the country during that time. I was involved at Southern University in New Orleans. And I worked with the Panthers breakfast program. We used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to, I think, St. John of Arc or one of the uptown churches and feed breakfast and, you know, help with breakfast and everything. So, and even with the Panthers, I think when they left Desire, they moved to a place on, like where the, I think it's the, on the, I forgot what's the name of the project, but we went there and they were trying to put them out of there, and we did picketing and everything like that too. But you know, it was a nationwide event that was going on, and we were a part of it. I went to Southern. I was a student at Southern University in New Orleans. I got put out 4 or 5 times. But a federal judge let us back in, so the system worked, you know. But I was. you know, I was at Southern, and we were part of the larger protest movement. You know, we put up the flag of Black liberation in 1969, and we used to do a lot of interaction with the Panthers. But the civil rights movement in New Orleans was, you know, Plessy versus Ferguson was like one of the first big civil rights movements, although it's not known as that. Many people know it because that's associated with separate but equal. But actually, they were part of a movement to overthrow segregation laws throughout the South, and that's what my book is about. But in the 60s, these all go through the 60s, so you can kind of see what was going on in New Orleans. And this is a poor man's PowerPoint, so you know.
If anybody wants one of their extras right here.
And so it started out in 1960. It was school integration. So the first 4 elementary students, females, to integrate public elementary schools in the Deep South happened in 1960, and that caused a lot of consternation. There was 4 girls. Everybody knows Ruby Bridges, but there were 3 others: Leona Tate, Tessie Prevost, and Gail Ashon. And a group of, I've worked with the Plessy and Ferguson Foundation. We put a plaque to their accomplishment in 1960 across the street from the school, McDonald number 19 school, in the lower 9th ward. But you know, these ladies went through a whole lot, and a lot of the people who are in here, you know, as I look back upon it, really do not get the recognition that they deserve. So one of the things myself and the Plessy and Ferguson Foundation do, we try to put up plaques and markers to commemorate some of these struggles. So that was sit-in and school integration. That, people don't think that New Orleans was really, people know the food culture and music culture. People don't know what a great civil rights culture we've had here, going way, way back, you know, even before Reconstruction. Okay, so that was, we integrated the schools in 1960. Corps, during that same year, were arrested for doing the sit-ins at the Woolworths and the, at the Woolworths on Canal Street. Rudy Lombard, Oretha Castle, Cecil Carter, and Sidney Goldfinch were arrested during that year. Reverend Avery Alexander and Cole Field Secretary were protesting unfair employment. So New Orleanians were really quite involved. In 1961, New Orleanians joined the Freedom Rides. So you know, you think of Jerome Smith. You have Doris Castle, who's only 17 years old, and she was like in jail in Parchment Prison for 2 or 3 months. And then we go to 1960. Well, 1961 took up a lot of space. 1962, doors opened slowly. Here's a quote. We were sitting there. There was a lot of violence. You know, I like when people always, you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, black people are violent." But if you go through the papers, you will see a real violence. Here's this one girl. We were sitting there for less than 10 minutes when my little girl screamed. Almost at the same time, I heard a thud and turned to see the little Richardson girl falling to the ground. When she fell, the girl remained motionless. Her brother tried to help her, and she stared and moaned, "Albert, they hit me." Then she lapsed into unconsciousness. And this is somebody, this was a girl standing at the bus stop, and somebody threw a brick at her and killed her. So. And that's the kind of stuff that was going on. It was, it was kind of routine for fire bombings, and all this stuff was going on. And so, by the time this is in the early '60s, so by the time that I was in college in the '60s, people were very, very angry. But they had the direct action, and they had Corps doing nonviolence. But at this point, we were very, very. We weren't necessarily violent, but we used to cause some trouble. We would cause trouble for people.
Keith, could you explain what CORE was for people that know?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
So, the Congress of Racial Equality. It was started in the 1940s by James Farmer. It was an integrated group, and their goal. This has something called the Journey of Reconciliation in 1947. So it was an integrated group of people from the North. They were going to take a bus ride through the Deep South. Okay, they didn't get that far. I think they may have gotten to the first time, and then they decided to, just. Oh no! What happened? They were all arrested and they were put in prison. I think in North Carolina somewhere, wherever they were caught, and then they just went back. And then they revived it in the 1960s, and that's when it became direct action. And CORE was, you had the old line civil rights people like Dr. King, etc. But CORE was direct action. They were not waiting another 50, 60 years for anything. And CORE, I would say, were the group of people who really pushed the agenda, as far as getting civil rights bills and everything, because they would not let it die. They went to Montgomery, they were beaten, and they were beaten really badly. But and Dr. King and many moderate black people wanted them to tone it down a bit. But like this lady was in jail, and she said, "Hey, we're going." Bull Connor told her to. Bull Connor, who was Alabama's police chief at the time, told them that they would have to they need to go to the state line and leave and never come back. And she said, "We're going to be back tomorrow." And they redid the camp. But people from New Orleans were very involved in this. And then '63 direct action workshops and voter crusades. And A.L. Davis presided over the Ministerial Alliance celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation, and the Congress of Racial Equality conducted a 2-day series of workshops at the Mount Zion Educational Center on Tulane Street. And you had a group of you had a great legal team. You had Lolis Eli Douglas, and Robert Collins, who actually defended many of the CORE groups and also the Freedom Riders. 1964, Civil Rights and Civil Wrongs. The United States Supreme Court overturned the Louisiana law that required candidates to be identified by race on the ballot. So now they were, it was the time they were pushing for voting rights. And they got the vote in 1965. And the New Orleans Ministerial Interdenominational Alliance said, "We recognize that the law within itself is of little value unless citizens register and vote." 1966, A.P. Turo became the city's first black city attorney. And for the first time, St. Augustine and Xavier Prep participated in a CYO basketball tournament at Loyola University. 1967, you got your first really political breakthrough when Dutch Morial was elected to the Louisiana legislature. 1968, the whole question of black nationalism was coming, and people were looking at their role as descended from Africa and being part of a movement in a whole different light. Police arrested. Like in February, police arrested Representative-elect Ernest Morial and Louisiana Weekly editor Henry Dejoie for refusing to move in front of his house. So, and that's the kind of things that would happen. This is when Dutch was elected to be the first black representative, but he's still treated, in a bad way.